Hello once again, everyone, and as you can get from the intro, I'm talking Game of Thrones, a song of Last of Us by George R. Martin. If you watch some videos, you know that I've recently started, playing Game of Thrones. Telltale, the first episode came out of that. I played through it, currently uploading the last part today, so that'll be up by the time up, because this one will be uploaded after this. But so I've been playing that, and I 6 months ish finished reading the the Song of Ice and Fire again for the second time. This is my second read through. I first read them about 2 years ago. I got the first book for Christmas from my brother, and then I collected the rest of them because I absolutely fell in love with it. And then I watched this series after that. So I'll be just talking all about Game of Thrones today. So yeah, I hope you look forward to it. So basically, I'll start from the start. So Game of Thrones was released in 1996, roughly. And obviously, I think but obviously when the TV series, which was 2009 started, I want to say, or was it 2010? Yeah. It's difficult because season 4 was this year, and they do a season every year, kind of deal. In 2010 it started, and probably filmed it in 2000. Probably, obviously they've been filming it all this year, and then season 5 starts next year. Because it takes time to do all the post-production stuff. So basically, yeah. So obviously started watching the series. So the first book basically introduces you to the world of Westeros and Essos. That's why I've learned that the whatever it is, it's like the land of the summer season stuff. So and yeah, like where the free cities are all sort of based is Essos, I think. All that kind of stuff. So it's like Westeros is this one island where majority of Game of Thrones takes place. You've got the Starks who control the north. You've got the Lannisters over here. You've got the Ironborn being Greyjoy. Yeah, Greyjoy in the Iron Isles. You've got Baratheon in King's Landings. You've got Martells in Dawn. You've got the Tyrells of Highgarden, and all these different houses. And basically, in the first book, you introduce the Starks. You got Eddard Stark, who in the series is played by Cissy Bean, an amazing actor. He basically is like, wow, he's so really good and did a really good job of being Eddard Stark. And then you got his wife Caitlyn, his 5 children and 1 illegitimate child, Robb, Bran, Sansa. Well, no, it's Robb, Sansa, Bran, Arya. Or is it Arya, Bran? I think Arya's older, and then Rickon, and then Jon, who's the same age as Robb, technically in the series, in the book, but in the series, they changed the ages of all these kids. So in the books, Robb's about 14, 15, same as Jon Snow, and then Sansa's like 13, or 12, 13. Arya's 9, 10, and then Bran's 8, and then Rickon's 4. In the series, it shows that Robb's about 16. His actor's probably not 16, or might have been 16 when he first started, but he didn't stay 16, obviously. And Jon's about the same age, I think. He might be slightly older. And Sansa seems to be about 14, 15 rather than the 13 she was in the books. and Arya's roughly like 11, 12, I think. So, and then Bran was about 10, and I think Rickon was like 6 or 7, because they couldn't get like a child actor that's 4 years old, which is understandable. So you got all these guys, and then obviously Robert Baratheon, King of Westeros, basically comes up and visits him because Jon Arryn, his previous hand, who basically fostered both Eddard Stark and Robert Baratheon when they were kids, died under mysterious circumstances, and it's suspected because they got a letter from Lysa Arryn, who was originally Lysa Tully, sister to Catelyn Stark, who was originally Catelyn Tully, saying, the Lannisters killed my Jon, kind of deal. He was poisoned rather than dying of old age, which is what basically is claimed, because he's quite old at the time of his death. He's like 50, 60 odd. So she flees to the Eyrie, another place, which we'll get to later. But basically, Robert offers Eddard, who she's like his best friend and stuff, I want you to be Hand of the King. And Eddard's like, I'll pass on that, mate. Thanks for the offer. And then some shit happens. Bran falls out a window, or was pushed by Jaime Lannister, brother to Cersei Lannister, Queen, and who then they has Robert's children, who are actually Jaime's children of Joffrey, Myrcella, and Tommen, and they all come up and blah blah blah. When basically Bran catches them doing the nasty, and he gets pushed out, and this sets off, triggers the events, and it's like Caitlyn's like, you've got to go, Robert. You really don't know what the Lannisters planning, or they're gonna kill him. You've got to find out what's the deal. I think the light also triggered this kind of deal. So basically, Eddard goes down and becomes Hand of the King. They travel down to King's Landing, the capital of Westeros. Before all this, they found these direwolf pups, one for each child. So obviously, Bran gets one, Rickon gets one, and all that sort of stuff. So Robb causes Grey Wind because of his grey colour kind of deal, and he's really fast. Jon has like the bastard pup kind of deal because it's white, kind of like a albino kind of deal, but instead of pink eyes, which you commonly associate with albinos, he's got red ones. Bran has a dark black wolf, I think, and he doesn't call his anything because he goes into a coma because of his fall, and he ends up crippled and stuff, and when he wakes up he calls it summer. Rickon calls his Shaggy Dog because he's a child. Sansa calls her his lady, and Arya calls her Nymeria after the famous warrior queen who sails the dawn and stuff. And basically Eddard takes Sansa and Arya down with him to King's Landing, and leaves Robb and Bran up here because Bran's scribbled, and Robb takes over him as basically Lord kind of deal. Jon gets sent, well, he doesn't get sent to the wall, but he chooses to go with their uncle Benjen to go to the wall, and blah 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 blah. So he goes to the wall, gets trains to become a man of the Night's Watch, and then becomes the man of the Night Watch, and all that kind of stuff. That's pretty much what his journey is in Book 1. He becomes a steward rather than a ranger, which he doesn't like, but he is made like steward to Lord Mormont, who is the commander of the Night's Watch. And he meets Samuel Tarly and a couple other friends and stuff. But there's nothing too interesting happens other than Benjen disappearing and stuff, and them suspecting the wildlings are gathering and stuff. That becomes a lot more interesting in Book 2, really, and I'll cover that a little bit. It's more the stuff that happens in the south that interests me, which is where Eddard Stark learns that obviously the Cersei's children are bastards. He discovers the bastards of Robert Baratheon, who's got huge black hair and stuff, and why doesn't Joffrey, Marcella, and Tommen have black hair, which they should have if he was actually Robert's children. And so he goes against the Queen, and the Queen's like, "Fuck you," and "I'll kill you." Well, no, and captures him, and they just fucks him over, and Joffrey, and then Robert dies, and Joffrey becomes king, and Joffrey's like, "Off with his head," and so they behead Robert. Oh, well, Eddard, kind of deal. Sansa's betrothed to Joffrey, and it's not a good time for her. Arya manages to escape, and he's like in King's Landing, and then she escapes off with another brother of the Night's Watch, and leaves King's Landing, which is all good. Bunch of other characters get to introduce, like the people on the council, including Littlefinger, the head of the Meister Pycelle. Well, Littlefinger's the Master Coin, Meister Pycelle's the like top Meister kind of deal. There's like the guy, the High Septon, who leads the guards. Obviously, Jaime Lannister gets to become leader of the Kingsguard, because it was originally Ser Barristan, and then Joffrey says, "You're retired," and because Ser Barristan's quite hard, and he's like, "Fuck you," and leaves and stuff. Blah 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 blah. This shit happens, and basically Robb declares war on the South for killing his father. It is understandable. That's what happens in Westeros. There's a bunch of other stuff that happens, obviously, that I've missed out, but you know, if you watch the series or have read the books, you know, oh yeah, this happens, and this happens, and this happens all over the place. I think the only other really important thing is Caitlyn realizes the Lannisters tried to kill Bran, and then send another killer after Bran, and it's actually Joffrey who does this. And she goes and then goes down to King's Landing via ship, and then starts to travel back up north, and then meets Tyrion Lannister, the dwarf brother of Jaime and Cersei, captures him and takes him to the Eyrie, puts him on trial. He does trial by combat, and he gets saved by Bronn, and then he leaves, gets the Mountain Men, and sort of joins his father, Tywin Lannister, who has an army, and is going up north to sort of attack or go against the Northern army that's sort of come down from the south, well, from the north into the south, and it's allied itself with the twins, which I don't think happens until book 2, I think, or then book 1, and it's sort of based on the Riverlands kind of deal. And no, that is, wait, no, book 1, is it? A lot of shit happens in book 1. It might be just the end of book 1 is the first battle where they capture Jaime Lannister. Is it? Possibly. Or it might be book 2. It's start of book 2 maybe. But yeah, and then across the sea we got to do stuff with Daenerys Targaryen. Well, the last remaining Targaryen, and Viserys. And Viserys sells it to Khal Drogo, a horse lord of the Dothraki. She marries him, she fucks him, she falls in love with him. They go to Dothraki, or Daznak, or whatever, some place. She gets pregnant, all this shit happens. Viserys gets crowned in the crown of molten gold. Khal Drogo gets injured and then gets killed by some sorcerer woman. Daenerys says, "Save him, do stuff." The child gets killed in the womb. She kills the sorcerer woman. She has 3 dragon eggs, and she bears 3 dragon eggs and gets 3 dragons, and it's awesome. And that's pretty much how it happens in book 1. And the series, well, it did pretty well. It misses a few minor things that I've probably not mentioned in whatever else, but it felt just pretty good. Book 2 is Clash of Kings, and it's basically like, alright, we'll introduce Stannis, who's brother to Robert, and Renly, who was introduced in book 1, but Renly is like, turns his power with Hyogon by marrying Margaery Tyrell, a girl of 16. So he marches up onto King's Landing. Well, he is marching towards King's Landing, but sidetracks to Starman, where Stannis lands and takes and shit. Where Stannis and his power from. He's based on Dragonstone, which was the original place that the Targaryens hold, and he declares himself king, and Renly declares himself king. Stannis is obviously the older, so he's technically rightful king. Renly's a usurper, but he's like good looking and well loved, basically, whereas Stannis is not so well loved. But shit happens, and he has the knights Davos with him, and Miss Sandy, a priestess of R'hllor, Lord of Light and shit, and he becomes Lord, and Horus men become Lord of Light men, basically, kind of deal. And she says he's Ashore, a psycho again, which I don't really believe, because he's not. I don't think he is. I think Daenerys is that. It's more likely to be Ashore, SI again, kind of deal, rather than Stannis. He's not what Ashore SI is, basically. If you think about it, anyway. And you see him and shit. So that shit happens, and Renly gets killed whilst Caitlyn Tully's down there, and he's trying to get an alliance with Renly and an alliance with Stannis and shit, showing the power of the North. And then she gets blamed. She takes Brienne, who also gets blamed. Well, no, Brienne gets most of the blame because she's there, and it's actually Stannis who uses Miss Renly, who gets the shadow to kill Renly, and shit happens, and blah blah blah. And so Caitlyn Tully / Stark, whatever, goes back to Sansa and says, "Yeah, sorry, I can't get you that alliance you wanted," kind of deal. Stannis in the meantime goes and joins his power with some of the High Garden's men. Others stay the cavalry that Renly took to storms and basically joins him, whereas the foot soldiers who are slower and so stayed with Marjorie. So then eventually goes up against Stannis as he does the Battle of the Blackwater, which Tyrion sort of commands the King's Landing forces and goes to Tyrion and basically destroys most of Stannis' fleet and shit, and basically it's a bad time for Stannis, and he loses and goes away. So that's the Southern Battle. The Northern Battle, the Midland Battle, where Robb is basically he goes against the Lannister forces and takes a bunch of places in the Westlands, going towards Lannisport and Castle the Rock, the sort of place where the Lannisters come from. But then obviously at the same time as this, Theon Greyjoy, his best buddy and stuff, goes to the Iron Islands, and instead of he says, "Yeah, we should ally ourselves with Robb, or we can go up to the north, which is now currently undefended, and we'll take the shit out of that." And his father's like, Theon Greyjoy, he's like, no, it's his father's like that, and he's like, "Yeah, fuck you, Dad." And they go and do it, and then he goes and takes Winterfell, so he becomes the Prince of Winterfell, because he wants to prove himself, kind of deal, and be an awesome guy, and all that kind of deal, and feel important and stuff, and really sort of kills Bran and Rickon during this, and then a new character called Ramsay Snow, who then becomes Ramsay Bolton, my most hated character of all. And if you watch the latest episode of the part 4 of my Game of Thrones series, you'll see exactly why I don't like him, because he's a fucking cunt. Basically, he disguises himself as weak for a short period of time, and then fucks over Theon with his army, and then fucks over the North people who was trying to take back Winterfell from Theon, kind of deal, and he fucks over someone else who he marries and imprisons her in a town. Basically, she eats her own fingers. It's not pleasant. He's not a pleasant guy. He's like a Joffrey if Joffrey was fucking evil as shit rather than just cruel. Joffrey isn't. I mean, he's a bit of a dick. He's pretty cruel, but he still does some good stuff, and he does some good stuff, and he can be charming from time to time, like Ramsay, who can be charming from time to time when he wants to be, but when he doesn't want to be, he's a fucking cunt. And obviously, Joffrey's very heated and shit, and then that stuff ends, and so I think that covers pretty much what happens in book 2, other than the stuff with Daenerys, which is real boring and shit, because he goes to Qarth, and then, well, she gets to cross the Red Desert, and then she ends up in Qarth. She ends up dealing with the sorcerers of Qarth, and burns down their palace, basically, and then leaves Qarth, and it's not really brilliant, and then, yeah, no, I forgot the Jon stuff, where a law moment takes like 300 men from the Night's Watch, goes on a massive raging in the north, basically, and Jon goes with him because he's obviously like Squire 2 Lord Moment. And is this the book where he gets he goes off with the half hand, and then basically he's forced to join the wildlings to find out what the fuck they are doing. And he meets Ygritte, who says, "You know nothing, Jon Snow." Where a very, very famous line from Game of Thrones, if you know it. And as well as the "Winter is coming" kind of deal. And King of the North, which I'm all about, because King of the North. Yeah. Season 2 of Game of Thrones sticks to it pretty well to the book. It starts diverging here, where it kind of focuses on different characters, which the books don't. Like, the books focus on certain main characters, and whereas the series can sometimes go to other characters, and you see that from their perspective, kind of deal. So that's kind of interesting. The Battle of the Blackwater is sharing in a bit more detail to what the books tell them, talk about and stuff. So that's all kind of interesting and shit. But yeah, this is where it starts to diverge and not be as true to the books, and it also like doesn't introduce all the characters in the book from the books. I mean, there's only so many people that you can cast, but it's disappointing when, oh yeah, this character is doesn't exist, or is this like this character's awesome in the books and just doesn't show up in the series, kind of deal. Yeah, and then book 3, we're split into 2 parts basically. So season 3 is sort of on the first one, and season 4 is on the second one. Pretty much kind of deal. And this is where the timeline becomes muddled, but basically book 3 becomes first, and book 2 is second. And book 3 mainly deals with what happens. Well, no. It's this. Yeah, because it's the one after the other. But so like the first part of book 3 deals with Robb and stuff, and how he gets betrayed by the Freys, and red wedding happens and all that sort of shit. And it's all very sad, and I hate the Freys. God damn them for killing the King of the North. I'm just gonna keep doing that. But that basically all happens and shit in the first book, the first part of book 3, and then Stannis is licking these wounds and Dragonstones, and then is it where he Davos learns to read and comes back to Stannis and shit and says, "Oh yeah, no people on the wall has requested help, and we should go do that." And then the people on the wall, it's like they get attacked by the Whites and Walkers, not the Walkers from The Walking Dead. Basically, dead people who are brought back to life by the Whites, who are these like undead sorcerer guys, kind of deal, like necromancers, and sort of travel with the cold and just make everything cold and shit and are very hard to kill, and who can only be killed by Dragonstone or Dragonglass, which is obsidian basically, or maybe Dragon Steel, which is Valyrian steel. I've not seen anyone kill a white yet with Valerian Steel though, so that'll be interesting to see, kind of deal. So yeah, that all that happens. John joins a group to climb the wall and go back up the wall with Giga, and then head towards the Night's Watch base of operations. Black. Fuck it. Fucking forgot the name. Castle Black. There it is. So yeah. They head towards that, but he escapes at one point and goes towards them and helps defend Castle Black from these raiders. And then Mance Raider, King Beyond the Wall, who I've not even mentioned, but exists, kind of deal. He brings like 100,000 wildlings to Castle Black to sort of like, yeah, we're coming through, you can't do fucking nothing about it because you've only got like 100 people here. We number like 100,000, roughly. You know. Well, I mean, it's not quite 100,000, but it's quite a lot. 10,000 or 100,000. Yeah, how many there is? But there's a shit ton, anyway. And he also has giants and shit. But luckily for the men in Castle Black, this is what happens in Reading. But the second part of it, Stannis comes, saves them. John is named Lord Commander of the Watch, and he accepts the surrender of the wildlings and brings them into the fold, basically, and all that sort of shit. So that happens. That's what happens in the wall. During this, Bran, who I've not mentioned from book 2, he wakes up and obviously he doesn't get killed by Theon. He escapes. Because he's crippled, he's being carried by Hodor, who only says Hodor. And so yeah, and then Usher takes Rickon and goes off somewhere, and they don't really talk about them again. And then I think they're going to be bringing them back in Winds of Winter, because George R. R. Martin really likes Natalie something or other performance of Usher. Usher, and she's like, I'll rewrite her into the story because she did a really stellar job being Usher. And obviously, I think they're on again. I'm gonna make sure I pronounce it correctly. Skagos, that's it. Skagos, the island of Skagos, apparently, which is an island full of cannibals. So it's not a good place to be. And Sea Earth is gonna try and rescue them. Kind of deal. And we learned that about that in later book, but you know that happens. Whereas Bran goes with Mira and Jojen, who are like two other kids that are a little bit older than Bran, who come from the marsh people basically, and Jojen has the green sight where he has dreams of the future basically, kind of deal. And so all that happens, and so he's like, yeah, Bran, you gotta travel beyond the wall to find the three-eyed crow. And so basically, well, that's what happens. And they meet Samworth. At one point, he's bringing back the lady woman he falls in love with. What's the fucking name? Forgot her name. Someone who's like one of Craster's wife/daughter, because she's born a daughter of the Crester, and he keeps her, and then when she's old enough, he doesn't marry her legitimately, but he starts having sex with her and it becomes a wife, basically. He's pretty fucked up, that Crester guy, but luckily he dies in book 3, so, you know, because there are no lords beyond the wall. It's all kosher kind of deal. So yeah, so that happens. So Sam guides Bran through this door, and they meet Cold Hands, and Cold Hands, who rides like a giant moose/reindeer type deal, takes them north to the Three-Eyed Crow and all that sort of stuff. And that happens in book 4 and part of book 5. And It's really, I mean, I like Bran, but you know, Bran's story is like he travels for quite a lot of it, and then meets the Free Eye Grow, and then it's just him becoming, being trained to be a Green Seer, Green Dreamer, Green something or other. Basically, he's a very special guy who only happens every couple of 100 years, and he has the ability to. Well, he's a warg, so he has the ability to slip into someone's skin, his wolf. But he also has the ability to become birds and trees and God knows ever to control humans as well. And I predict when Daenerys finally gets to Westeros, he'll probably control a dragon at some point. Or at least I'm hoping that will happen just because that'd be freaking awesome. Hey dragon, I control you now. Okay, an idiot. I'm a crippled boy dragon. I can be a dragon. Come on, that is pretty awesome. But that's just me being hopeful, and obviously we won't know what happens until George R. R. Martin finally releases the books. I mean, it's been 3 years since this book was released, so it's gonna take him some time. It was like 5 years between book 4 and book 5, so you know, might be next year, might be 2016, 2017. You never know with George R. R. Martin. He takes his time, but generally, they're pretty thick books. This is just part 2 of book 5, which is it's like almost 500 pages. The other one, part 1 was like 600 and something pages. They're pretty thick books, so yes, like, well, quite worth the wait kind of deal. But all that happens, she in King's Landing, Joffrey's set to marry Marge at the wedding, gets poisoned, Tyrion's blamed, and blah blah blah. And then Tyrion kills his father Tywin with a crossbow and then leaves to go to the Three Cities. Obviously, the Iron Isles, Balon gets killed and they elect a new king called Euron, One Eye, or something, Crow's Eye, that's it. Whereas the Victorian wanted to be it, as well as Asher, Silster to be on, basically. And they're beat off, and Asher goes back to Deep Woodmont, where she took, but Victorian stays, and he's the, like, Admiral of the Iron Fleet. And then, Euron sends them to go get Daenerys from Meereen. Daenerys travels to Astapor, where she gets an army of Unsullied, who are these people who are trained from like the age of 4 or 5. Well, yeah, are slave soldiers, but are like the ultimate slave soldiers because they get the balls chopped off and are very loyal and don't feel pain as much, and the ultimate obedient soldier. And then she travels north, takes out Yunkai, but briefly takes out Yunkai. Doesn't really destroy it or anything. Goes on up to Meereen, takes Meereen, stays in Meereen for the rest of the time, including this book. But she's finally figured out by the end of this book, I have to go. Meereen's not my home. But she just wanted to spend some time learning to be queen and acting like a queen, basically. It's kind of cool and shit. So I think that covers most of what happens in book 3 and book 4. And again, series 3 and 4 sort of cover this, and then sometimes misses out bits, and then takes Brienne on a whole different journey through this kind of deal, and that angered me pretty badly. And yeah, I've got Arya sort of escapes. Well, I've not even talked about Arya for a while, have I? She goes with the Night Watchman guy, and then they get stopped by, I think it's Lannister men. They get killed. She ends up being a servant person in. Again, I forgot the name of their place. It's quite a big place though. Harrenhal to Tywin Lannister. She eventually escapes Harrenhal, and then joins the Brotherhood for a brief time, and then is taken by the dog guy who was originally servant guy to Joffrey, but he he doesn't like the burning when like they used the dragonfire stuff in the Battle of Blackwater because he's afraid of fire, so he leaves and sort of stuff, and she turns with him. They go to the twins where the road wedding takes place, and then they sort of journey, and eventually the dog dies, and she goes across to Bravos, and now she's learning to be an assassin basically in Bravos, which is pretty cool. I really like her character. Book 4, more shit happens in book 4. Like originally Marjorie then after having married like Joffrey's then gets to marry Tommen. She like definitely like a third husband, man. She's very unlucky. And she's like an opposite power to Cersei, who becomes like queen regent, and does a load of shit. A load of shit happens in Dawn for the first time we get to see Dawn kind of deal in book 4, which I'm quite looking forward to season 5 seeing this. But apparently the princess from that has not been cast, which is rather disappointing because she's kind of an important character in book 4 and book 5, and it's like the Sand Snakes have cast who aren't unimportant, don't have big roles in book 4 and book 5, but from what I've gathered from the end of book 5, or what happens in book 5, basically they are to become important characters basically in book 6. But you know, that happens. There's Quentin Martell joins to Marine to sort of say, oh yeah, there was this marriage contract that Viserys was going to marry my sister, but obviously because Viserys is dead, how about you and me get together, baby? And Daenerys at this point is married. Her husband, who was from Marine, is like, no, you've come too late. I'm sorry, but I do have 3 dragons, and I'll need some guy to ride one of them. You could become that guy if you prove yourself. Wink, wink. And he's like, oh yes, I'll prove myself by freeing the dragons and then getting burnt and killing myself, basically, which happens in this book. I'm basically summarizing it. I don't want to go too much into details of book 4 and book 5, because I figured if you want to read it and have not yet read it, you'll want to know shit. What? Not too spoiler-ish, but he dies. Anyway, you know, a lot of people die in Game of Thrones. And there's more stuff with Tyrion, who eventually goes to Marine as well. Because he becomes a slave. A bunch of stuff happens on the wall. And I really want to know what happens with Jon, because he gets a cliffhanger hanging on this book, as well as Daenerys gets a cliffhanger. And he ends a bunch of stuff with cliffhangers, basically. And you're like, what happens? Give me the next book. I must know. Does Stannis prevail over Bolton? Does Jon figure out the wall? Does Daenerys finally leave Marine with her army and Dothraki Khalasar? Because he interacts with Dothraki Khalasar at the end of the book. And it's like, oh yes, well, we'll see what happens with that. Does Arya become a true assassin and go back to Westeros and kill everyone? You know, these questions must be answered. But basically, I really, really fucking love these books and really enjoy the series, even though it goes off on tangents occasionally. And introduce your characters that aren't like I only have a brief span in the books, but in the series last a lot longer, and you're like, why the fuck do you have this character when you've missed out this important character, what important character, and whatever else? Is it just because you want to show more boobies? It's because you want to show more boobies, isn't it, Game of Thrones? Because it's notorious for showing boobies, which obviously as a guy I appreciate boobies. I love seeing them, but I'm like, what about all this political intrigue that happens in Game of Thrones? Because it's not. Oh, well, I mean, it does have quite a few. Not as many as the series, but it does have some sex shit in it and whatever else, and there's plenty of killing in it, which the series equally maintains the level of killing. It's just like, yes, awesome violence. No, skinning is disgusting. You don't want to see that kind of deal. Because both of that happens, and it's all very good. But yeah, so yeah. If you can't tell, I'm definitely a Stark man, so I love the Jon Snow stuff. He's a very interesting character to me. I really want to know what happens with him. Arya Stark as well. I actually really like. At first, her story starts really dull, but it picks up and gets better and better and better and better. And by the time you get to book 5, you're like, fuck, that's interesting. Stannis is also a character that they follow, and again, very, very dull when you start with Sansa, and then she gets to marry Tyrion and all that sort of stuff. Because she sees quite a bit, or she sees some of the political intrigue that happens in King's Landing, and then she leaves and goes to the area, which I've not even mentioned. All of that sort of shit happens in book 3 and 2, book 5, all the things that you get revealed, like little things having a role in X and Y, whatever else. It's just pretty interesting, to be honest, and I'm looking forward to seeing what else happens with Sansa. Hopefully it'll be like the Eyrie goes to war, because Erie's not taking any part in the war as of yet, but I'm hoping that they'll start joining forces with someone, or being a force on their own, maybe. Don't know. Yeah, but yeah, and then obviously I really do enjoy Daenerys, but basically it's like book 1 was really good for Daenerys, book 2 was totally shit, book 3 was good because she did all the nice stuff and shit like that, and all that journey to Marine and stuff, and then it winds down again while she stays in Marine and is looking for peace and shit in book 4 and book 5. But it does have a few interesting things happen, and obviously by the end of book 5 she's a really interesting character again, and I want to know more. I also really like Tyrion, just because he's got a really good sense of humour, being a dwarf, and again, in the series 4 they have a bunch of dwarfs fighting when it should have been just Penny and her brother fighting on their pig and the dog and jousting, and it's just like, that's not right. What about Penny? Because she becomes a character in book 4 and book 5, and it's like, and it's just kind of like, does Tyrion really fall in love with her kind of deal? Because it seems like that might be what's slowly happening ish, but anyway, sure, it's interesting and I enjoy it. I'm like looking forward to just getting more. I really hope George R. R. Martin releases the next book sometime soon-ish. But obviously season 5, which is based on book 4, it's gonna have to be based on book 4 and part 1 of book 5, because this part is after book 4 and after book 5, but book 4 and book 5 take place in the same time period, but focuses on different characters. And with the series that has to focus on all characters, they're gonna have to split it up some different way, I think. I don't know, because it made sense in the books to split it up that way, but I don't know if the TV series is gonna split it up that way and not include some characters. I have heard that in season 5 they're not gonna have any Bran stuff, which makes sense because not much happens with him, to be honest, and the stuff that does happen might not be that interesting to show on screen. I mean, they did get him to the point where he should be pretty much in the books anyway. But obviously, I think that's me really done. And having rented for probably the longest vlog I've ever made, I'm going to end it here, guys. And I'll see you guys next time, where I'll discuss probably Batman, because I'm currently reading Batman. talk about Year One and The Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller, perhaps. Or perhaps not. We'll see what happens. And obviously, I'll be after Game of Thrones. I'm going to be going back to Alien Isolation, and hopefully, I will pass the era I got stuck on, which you haven't seen yet because I've not released them for videos that I've got prepared that I've had on my computer for like 2 weeks now. Damn you, Telltale Games, are releasing games so soon after each other. But yeah, I will see you guys next time for whatever video is to come. Peace out, Girl Scouts.